All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to GlucoseZone Live. I'm your host, Charlie O'Connell. We are here doing diabetes talk, live and direct from New Haven, Connecticut. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty. You know, sometimes it can be really hard to manage YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram all at the same time. But I am glad that you guys are here with me right now. And we're going to get live on Instagram right now, and then we're going to get started with really one of the most important topics that we've talked about in a while, and it is being in a relationship with somebody who has diabetes, and dealing with the challenges of the ups and downs of diabetes when, diabetes can be very challenging on a good day, but if you are experiencing sickness or any other type of issue that's impacting your health, that can be extremely challenging, not only for the person that has diabetes themselves, but for the person who may be in a relationship with a person living with diabetes. So this is really a very important topic. I'm glad we're talking about this, and of course I want to answer all of your questions. We just had a phenomenal workout. Mary Guerra, I see you joining us on Facebook. We've got a ton of people already logging in. Jeanette, I see you. And Jeanette, I saw you working out earlier. I know how much butt you've been kicking. And that workout that we just did, guys, was no joke, okay? And Claudette, I also want to say thank you for inviting your friend to join us in the GlucoseZone. And I want to encourage everybody who enjoys our GlucoseZone workouts. If you have a friend or a family member that loves fitness or basically is looking for something that's fun and engaging to do with you, please invite them to join us, all right? Also want to say what's up to Michelle, who's joined us on Instagram, and Samuel, who's also joined us on Instagram, and guys, everybody else around the world, thank you for joining us in this diabetes talk. So, let's get right into it, okay? Let's talk about what being sick actually does to your diabetes and to your glucose levels. So the first thing, is let's talk about what high blood sugar does and what low blood sugar does. So low blood sugars, which are hypoglycemia, can be very dangerous in the short term. And especially for people living with type 1 diabetes, but anybody who's taking diabetes medication that has a hypoglycemic effect, low blood sugar and the fear of low blood sugar can actually come to dominate how you manage your diabetes. And in a very weird way, sometimes low blood sugar can come to define diabetes for us, which is really crazy because low blood sugar is not diabetes. In fact, it's the exact opposite. High blood sugar is diabetes. Because low blood sugar has such an acute, immediate, disastrous effect on our behavior, on how we feel, on our mood, all those things, it can be basically something that really challenges us, okay? So, when you have low blood sugar and you're not feeling well, that can make it very challenging to communicate, and I'm talking about from the person living with diabetes, but it also can be very challenging for the person, the loved one who's in a relationship with the person living with diabetes. And so this is actually a very important topic, and this is a topic about self-awareness. And I want to ask everybody who's watching now, if you have diabetes, I want you to become self-aware of your behavior when and if you have low blood sugar, because sometimes it can become very challenging to actually be aware of how you're interacting with others. And you may not realize it, but when people have low blood sugar, you can become incredibly moody, you can become angry, you can become disoriented, you can become short-tempered, and that can be that is not an enjoyable thing to be around. And sometimes that can be very, very challenging to be in a relationship with. So while I think everyone here would agree that low blood sugar is not your fault, I do want to encourage you to be aware of how you behave when you have low blood sugar and how that behavior impacts your loved one. All right? And we all are in position where we have a family member or a friend or a loved one who is there for us. Let's not basically take out our frustration, our anxiety, our anger on that person when our blood sugar is too low. All right? Now, let's talk about now high blood sugar. So high blood sugar is ultimately what is the cause of diabetes complications. And high blood sugar is ultimately what diabetes is. Diabetes is a disease of elevated blood sugar levels. But let's talk very specifically about how and why high blood sugars can be dangerous, besides the things that we've talked about in the past in terms of those sugar molecules, those shards of sugar damaging the blood vessels. Okay? And if you haven't heard, guys, this talk before, I highly encourage you to go and listen to some of my other talks where I really, really explain how and why elevated levels of sugar molecules, which are shaped like shards of glass, how they damage the inside of your blood vessels. And that's why people develop neuropathy. That's why people develop retinopathy. That's why people develop kidney issues. It's because those shards of sugar damage the inside of your blood vessels, okay, by scraping against them. Those are the long-term consequences of chronically high blood sugar. What I want to talk about today is more in the short term. If you are experiencing very, very high elevated blood sugar levels, you can be at risk for something called ketoacidosis, or there's something else, okay, which is called HHNS. And what HHNS stands for, and this is a mouthful, so I want you to stay with me here, is hyperosmolar hyperglycemic non-ketotic syndrome. So, what the heck does that mean? What hyperosmolar hyperglycemic non-ketotic syndrome means is your blood, what it means is your blood literally starts to go through an osmosis effect where it becomes very, very thick, almost like molasses, and you become extremely dehydrated, okay? And it is a very, very bad, dangerous condition. And it's actually much more common in people with type 2 diabetes. The end result is extreme dehydration, okay? And you'll notice, basically, you can tell if somebody is going through this non-ketotic syndrome if they have extreme dehydration, if their urine is very, very thick, okay? Or if their blood is very, very thick. And you can actually feel the texture, the actual texture of the blood will change, okay? And this is a very, very dangerous condition. It basically requires hospitalization, and it is the end result of having blood sugar levels above 300 or 400 for an extended period of time, okay? What's interesting about it is it is not ketoacidosis. So ketoacidosis is also, okay, a symptom of high blood sugar. But what ketoacidosis actually is your body has transitioned to 100% utilizing fat and muscle tissue as forms of energy to keep you going, okay? And that is combined with elevated blood sugar levels. And the ketones in your blood indicate the potential for ketoacidosis. Both of those conditions, okay, hyperosmolar, hyperglycemic, non-ketotic syndrome, and ketoacidosis are extremely dangerous, bad situations related to high blood sugar levels. And if you are sick, this is the whole point of why I'm bringing this up, if you are sick, you become at risk for those complications, right? And why that happens is a really, really kind of confusing but consistent thing, okay? So many times when people living with diabetes, okay, develop the flu or food poisoning or basically get under the weather, generate a fever, whatever it might be, okay, when that happens, there is a tendency for elevated blood sugar levels, all right? And if you are a person living with diabetes that takes insulin as a therapy, you may notice that you may have to take a significant more amount of insulin than on normal days. And the key to that is acknowledging that that is actually the appropriate thing to do, and not getting frustrated and not, basically developing anxiety and frustration because you're administering yourself insulin, you're having super high blood sugar levels, and you're getting frustrated with why is that happening, okay? It is well known that when you get sick, okay, you experience elevated blood sugar levels. Now, the reason why, okay, and this is actually a very, very interesting thing, is the reason why you develop high blood sugar levels when you get sick is because your body releases stress hormones, okay, in response to that sickness that causes elevated blood sugar levels. So we've talked about this before, and I want to encourage you to familiarize yourself with the different hormones that counter-regulate blood glucose levels. So there is one hormone that lowers blood sugar levels, and that hormone is insulin. There are at least 5 hormones that raise blood sugar levels, and those are called counter-regulatory hormones. Those counter-regulatory hormones can cause a rise in your glucose levels regardless of whether you've eaten carbs or not, regardless of whether you've had food or not, okay? Very, very important, okay? Very, very important that you are aware of and understand all of these things. Managing diabetes, it's so challenging because there are so many different variables, okay? And you could be managing everything great, and then you get sick or you get under the weather and everything gets thrown out the window. The most important thing is basically focusing on the things that you are in control of, all right? All right, let me stop for a second, acknowledge we've got a whole bunch of people that have joined us since we first got started. I want to say what's up to Marisol joining us on Facebook. It is great to have you here, Marisol. We've got a ton of people joining us on YouTube. Do me a favor, actually, we have so many people joining us. Do me a favor, I want to acknowledge them. Let's just get a list of everybody that has joined us since we got started. And Frank, I see you on Instagram. It is great to have you here. All right. Now, getting back to these symptoms of ketoacidosis or hyperosmolar, hyperglycemic, non-ketotic syndrome, which I think I just like saying that over and over again now. So I want to share with you the symptoms, the perceivable symptoms of ketoacidosis or HHNS, which is this non-ketotic syndrome, to watch out for when you're ill. And remember, guys, here, the point is, if you are sick, you want to become more aware of these symptoms, right? So here are the symptoms that are big time red flags. You need to basically be aware of them. Thirstiness, dry mouth, okay, or extreme thirst and not urinating. That is a big time red flag. The other red flag, ironically, is frequent urination. So if you're frequently urinating, that's an indication that there's a lot of sugar in your blood, okay? Constantly feeling tired. If you are feeling tired, okay, or lethargic, that is a sign potentially of non-ketotic syndrome or ketoacidosis. Dry or flushed skin. That's another really important thing to be aware of. If you are all of a sudden noticing that your skin is super dry, okay, that's a potential indication of these complications. Any type of nausea or vomiting or abdominal pain, that's a very common thing with ketoacidosis, okay? Difficulty breathing, for sure. Now here's another one that your partner may notice, and it's fruity odor on the breath. So if all of a sudden your breath becomes fruity, that is an indication that you are experiencing ketoacidosis. If you're having a hard time paying attention, or you're confused, okay? If you have a high fever of over 101 Fahrenheit, if you have any type of loss of vision or weakness on one side of the body or the other, these are all red flag symptoms of, you know what, there's something up with my diabetes. I need to basically talk to my doctor. All right, so an awesome group with us right now. I want to do a huge shout out to everybody who's with us right now on YouTube. We've got Mary, Jeanette, Claudette, Donnie Ray, Betsaida, Vara Daraj. Great to have you here. Jackie, FK, Lulu, Deleslin, and Maria all joining us, guys. It is great to have you here. You know, one of the things that was really fun was we did a flash YouTube workout on Wednesday morning, and we actually had a ton of people join us that we haven't worked out with or I haven't heard from before. And what I would really love to ask you guys to give us some commentary on is, what time works for you in terms of GLUCOSEZONE live workouts? Do you like the time that we go? Right now, our time is at 10 a.m. Eastern, and every day in the GLUCOSEZONE app, and then we do these YouTube broadcasts at 6:30. Let us know, does 10 a.m. Eastern time work for you? Would there be a better time that you could join us? We are right now basically considering expanding our schedule. We're going to be doing more live classes. We're going to be bringing in a whole new group of fitness trainers, okay, who are diabetes fitness professionals, okay? We really could use some great feedback from you as to what time is best for you. And this is a global community, so I'm actually very interested in hearing from our global audience just as much as our stateside audience. All right. Now, those are all the things, okay? We actually got a very good question that's come in. I want to thank Maria for asking this question and making this comment. So what basically Maria shared with us is she's feeling tired always after dinner, even if it's just a healthy dinner. All right, that's a great, that is a great comment. So here's the thing. Feeling tired after dinner is not necessarily an indication that there's something wrong. The first thing that I would encourage you to do is test your blood sugar. If after dinner your blood sugar is over 200, then I would say yes, okay, that feeling tired may be directly related to having high blood sugar levels, okay? But if you're not experiencing high blood sugar levels after dinner and you're just feeling tired, there's two things that immediately pop into mind. The first thing is you may actually just literally be tired, okay? And sleep, the relationship between sleep and diabetes is such an important relationship. Sleep, or the lack thereof, can completely screw up your diabetes. And I'm talking from very personal experience. You know, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. Some days are better than others for me in terms of the amount of sleep that I get. And when I don't get sleep, not only does it mess with my diabetes, it causes more roller coasters in my glucose levels, but you guys can see it on my face, okay? You can see when I'm tired. So getting an appropriate amount of sleep is a huge, huge factor in successful diabetes management. And I know that that's much easier said than done, but it is something that you really need to be conscious of, okay? Now, the other part of feeling sleepy, even though it's a healthy dinner, is allowing yourself to have 10 to 15 minutes of downtime after eating could actually be a great way to allow your body to digest and basically absorb the food that you've eaten, and then I want you to see how you feel. So, you know, this is a great comment. Being aware of your energy levels as relates to your diabetes, being aware of your energy levels as relates to the timing of the food that you eat, is one of the most important things that you can do to analyze how is your diabetes in general. All right? Okay, now, the last thing that I want to talk about, okay, is getting back to this whole concept of in sickness and in health. So this is a channel about people living with diabetes. But anybody who's living with diabetes, or most people living with diabetes, have a partner or a wife or a husband or a family member or a friend that is basically suffering from diabetes as well because they're in a relationship with you. And I know that's a hard way to put it, okay? To basically say, you know, well, your partner is suffering, but the reality is that if you have a partner, they're living diabetes with you as well, okay? And it's only fair that you acknowledge that and you're conscious of it, okay? And it's very, very easy to get basically self-righteous about your diabetes with your partner, and it's easy to understand why that is, but the reality is, for most people, our partners are incredibly caring, loving people, and they are trying to be as helpful as possible, okay? And I want to encourage you to be aware of your mood swings. I'm going to encourage you to be aware of how low blood sugar or high blood sugar impacts your communication to your partner. And very importantly, one of the best things that you can do to ensure a healthy relationship is to talk to your partner and let them know what is helpful to you and what is not, if you are feeling frustration or if they are feeling frustration with the relationship with diabetes. All right? And I'll give you a classic example. This is a hilarious thing that happens to me almost every single time I go out with my extended family. I have an incredible extended family who love me dearly. Every single time we go out, they feel uncomfortable with food and me, and they basically are always asking if it's okay for me to eat something. And it's all the classic kind of diabetes stuff where, you know, we'll be having lasagna for dinner, and you know, a family member will basically express concern and apologize for, you know, having lasagna, or asking, is it okay for me to eat that, and all that stuff, okay? And that's a very common thing that happens to everybody living with diabetes. The best thing that you can do as a person living with diabetes is not get frustrated by that. Don't cop an attitude because your family member, your cousin, your relative, or whatever doesn't understand your diabetes. You actually should understand and have the self-awareness that that person really cares about you, and they're just not sure, and they're confused. And guess what? Diabetes is confusing. Diabetes is confusing even for people living with diabetes, even for experts in diabetes professionals. Diabetes can be very confusing. So, you know, why we would expect somebody that is not a diabetes expert to understand our diabetes, you know, I don't know why we would do that. That tends to happen a lot, all right? But it is what it is. So I'm just suggesting to you guys, and this whole topic was about being aware of how sickness impacts diabetes, and then, you know, this whole notion, this phrase of in sickness and in health, really acknowledging that your partner, your family, your friends are also living with diabetes, in the sense that they are susceptible to how highs and lows impact you, how you communicate with them, what you expect in return, all right? And ultimately understanding that diabetes, there is no perfect way to manage diabetes, and diabetes is a confusing disease that even the best people, even the experts, okay, sometimes can really have trouble understanding what's going on or explaining what's going on. All right? So, on that note, guys, we're going to end tonight's broadcast. I want to thank everybody who gave us some feedback on times that work for you. That's very helpful for us. Guys, we have so many amazing things happening right now with GlucoseZone. I really want to encourage you, download the GlucoseZone app, join us, okay? And the reality is, and I don't know why this is happening, but literally every single person who has made the commitment to join GlucoseZone, download the GlucoseZone app, and start working out with us, has literally made transformational changes to their body, to their mind, and to their diabetes. And what it comes down to is making that commitment to yourself, all right? And when you are ready to make that commitment to yourself, we are ready to help you make that change, right? And on that note, I want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. This has been a very interesting diabetes talk topic. You guys did a great job. I can't wait to see you tomorrow morning in the GlucoseZone app at 10 a.m. Have a great night.